Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Howard County Delegation meeting of Wednesday, February the 16th. We will follow the agenda today in the order that it is listed. And the first thing we have on the agenda are two bond bill initiatives, Living in Recovery and Historic Oakland Elevator. Who would like to explain these before we move to include them, to vote to include them in the bonds that we are sending forth? Delegate Feldmark.
I can, oops. All right, sorry about that. I can speak to Historic Oakland. That is to fund an elevator for accessibility of the second story of Historic Oakland, which, as you know, is a community center for Town Center in Columbia. So if anyone has questions, happy to discuss. I know Lynn Locke presented in detail the other evening.
Yes, she did. Does anybody wish to speak about the Living in Recovery bond bill? We did have testimony on that as well. All right, is there any objection to taking these as a consensus together vote to move them forward in the bond bill process? Any objection? If not, can we please have a motion?
Let's move the consensus bond initiatives.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Ms. Rubeling? Those have passed with everyone in attendance voting yes, to be moved on to the next part of the process. Now we will go to Howard County 14. This is the alcohol bill requested by the Liquor Board. Do we have any amendments for Howard County Bill 14? Delegate Terrazza.
Can I ask if the Liquor Board has voted on it? Because last I knew, the Liquor Board did not request them. Last week, our discussion was that the staff had.
The Liquor Board chair testified last week that he and the vice chair and the staff had discussed this. Mr. Youngman.
Sorry, I couldn't find my raise hand button. You're both right. I think from what we talked about last week, the Liquor Board has not taken an actual vote on these. Like for instance, if you guys eliminate newspaper advertising, we might decide to wait 2 years before we do that. Or if there's an additional character reference type fit and proper thing that we'd like to do. We'll look at all that after we know what we're enabled to do by you guys. But at the same time, yes, I've spoken to everyone, just individually about it. And there doesn't seem to be any big concerns on the state changing these.
Thank you. Are there any amendments? Does anyone have any amendments? Mr. Razzo, do you have an amendment?
I don't have an amendment. Well, it depends on which one we're on.
We're on number 14.
Yes, I do. Darragh has them.
Mr. Moriarty, do you have an amendment for Council Bill 14?
Yes, I do.
Would you like to share it with us, please?
Sure. I'm just pulling it up now.
Also, Madam Chair, I would like to respond to the issue of whether they've requested it, because they've not requested it. This was requested by their staff. They've discussed it and don't disagree with it.
Thank you for that. Do you have any other comments on that? Okay, let's take a look at the amendment. Mr. Razzo, would you like to explain the amendment?
I'd like to. I just got it last. Okay. Basically, what this does is have the applicant. I don't know what the first piece of it does. I think it just changes the title. But the second, and maybe Derek can weigh in on it. Mr. Moriarty can weigh in on it. But the second piece of it says that the applicant will send a picture of where it's posted, because now it's going to be posted in front of the location. and it'll send it to the board before the hearing. I think this is done in planning board and zoning board cases. And then the other thing is that the board will post it on their, in the hearing notes on the board's website. And then I thought it was supposed to also say, well, what's missing, Mr. Moriarty, is the part where they were supposed to post it where anywhere else notices are posted for the county.
So it would also be on the county's website?
Wherever notices
Okay.
are generally posted on the county's website.
Mr. Youngman, do you have any questions on this amendment or any comments?
No, well, the first two parts that she went through, I think is what we talked about last week. But I'm concerned about this wide open and we'll post it wherever else notices need to get posted because
Okay.
in follow up to Senator Hester's comment last week, we've already, Mr. Wimberly has already started working on compiling where the county and all the various entities post notices. And it is, as we all probably could have predicted, a god-awful mess of inconsistency. So I'm not sure that we could comply with just everywhere else county notices are posted.
Yeah.
As we haven't quite even figured out where those are
Okay,
yet.
where is that? Where, it's, the print is small and I'm not seeing it. Where is that in the amendment?
The third piece is not written there.
Oh,
It was requested, but Mr. Youngman, I do appreciate that you guys looked into that. I would ask that once the county does decide to consolidate those, which I hope at some point they do, which is I thought, I'm not going to speak for Senator Hester, but I thought what she was sort of saying is it would be great if there was a one location where, well, that's what I was hoping for, but maybe I just heard it in what Senator Hester said. But I would hope that once that happens, if there's a general location where all notices are posted, the council, I mean, the zoning board, I mean, sorry, the liquor board, old habits die hard here, would also post it there, but I understand that.
Yeah, I think that the goal, and you know, the county's redoing its website as we speak, is to have kind of a central place of notices and to also allow residents to sign up for email alerts and notices based on their preference. Like, you know, I want to get all the zoning notices. I want to get all the liquor notices. I want to get all the health department notices.
that sounds like a good plan, Mr. Youngman. I am going to move on to other questions. And before I do, I meant to say this earlier, but I'll remind everyone that we have 4 liquor bills on the agenda, and Liquor Day is Monday, the 21st, when the House Economic Matters Committee needs to move these bills forward. So if these bills are going to move forward, they need to do so today. So I just want to make sure everybody's aware of that. And if we need to take them in a different order, we can do that too. But Delegate Jessica Feldmark.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On the point we were just discussing about sort of other notice locations, the county, and I understand the county's website is always sort of a work in progress and evolves over time. But there is a general public meetings page. I think one specific requirement we could add here, which would not be open-ended, is that the board shall provide notice of the meeting or hearing to the county's Office of Public Information to be shared wherever they share public meeting information, right? And so then once the board has also given it to the Office of Public Information, then if the page they put that on changes, they can change accordingly.
Would you like to make a motion to amend the amendment?
Yes, I am moving to add that to the amendment.
Would you like to repeat the language that's being added, please?
The board shall provide notice of the hearing. The amendment is no longer being shared on the screen, so I can't see to make it consistent with the other statements, but Darragh, if you could. So the board shall, so then E would become the board shall provide notice of the hearing to the county's Office of Public Information to be shared with other public meeting information.
To be shared with other public meeting notices.
Can that
To be
also
shared
be,
with, to be
Hold on.
included with other public meeting notices on the county's website.
Okay, Mr. Moriarty, do you have that down?
Yes, I wrote that down.
And can you read it back, please?
Yeah, the board shall, the board shall share the notice with could you repeat this next part, with whom they're sharing?
The board shall provide notice of the hearing
To the public
To the-
information officer.
to the county Office of Public Information
Okay.
to be included
The-
with other public
Public
meeting
meeting
notices.
notices. I think you leave it there because
Okay.
they could end up putting, you don't know where, a public information meeting board on some platform we haven't heard of yet.
And should that be shared, should that have the same 15-day requirement?
Yes,
Okay,
Good call. Is that it for you, Ms. Feldmark?
yes.
Delegate Trauza again?
I consider that a friendly amendment and really appreciate the language. Thank you, Delegate Feldman.
Would you like to second it?
Second,
Okay, we're going to vote on this amendment to the amendment.
Chair Watson, would you mind if I just repeated it one more time, just to make sure?
Yes, please go ahead.
The board shall share the hearing notice with the public information officer to be included with other public meeting notices for at least 15 days
when,
for the hearing. I don't know.
Can you read that one more time because you kind of were breaking up there?
Sorry. The board shall share the hearing notice with the public information officer to be included with other public meeting notices for at least 15 days before the hearing on an application. And then-
I think the board shall provide the
Okay,
notice to the Office of Public Information.
At least 15 days before.
Right.
You don't need 4 in there.
and I thought Delegate Feldmark said where other meeting notices are posted.
To be included with other public meeting notices.
Yes, that's
Yes.
what I,
Okay, let's try again.
okay.
If you can read it back to us, don't worry, we got you. Mr.
Oh,
Moriarty.
I appreciate it.
We know it's hard to do on the fly. Go ahead.
The board shall provide the notice to the Office of Public Information to be included with other public meeting notices for at least 15 days before the hearing on an application.
Okay, so you need to take for at least 15 days and put it in
Okay.
the beginning. The board shall
Okay.
give notice to the Public Information Office at least
At
15 days before the hearing to be posted.
Posted with, okay,
Want to read it one more time?
yep. And no less than 15 days before the hearing, the board shall provide a notice to the Office of Public Information to be posted with other public meeting notices.
I think that's good.
no, it's not no less than, it's at least.
Okay,
Madam Chair,
Delegate Hill.
thank you. I think we have precedent in this delegation for voting on the sense of an amendment and allowing for the vote to move forward. And then when the final wording is done, for it to be passed around electronically and all the members affirm their initial vote, or
Yeah, I think that is true, and I thank you for bringing that up. Let's see if we're at that point. Mr. Moriarty, could you we're going to read this one final time,
Sure.
and if it's the sense of what people want, we will move it forward. Go ahead.
is to at least 15 days before the hearing on an application, the board shall provide the notice of the hearing to the Office of Public Information to be posted with other public meeting notices.
Okay, there is a motion and a second on the amendment to the amendment. And can we do this by consensus, or would someone like us to do the roll call vote? Okay, I don't hear any objections, so all those in favor of the amendment to the amendment say aye. And can you take the amendment down so I can see faces, please? Thank you.
Aye.
Aye.
Is there any objection to this amendment to amendment? All right, that passes. And now can we have an motion on the,
With the amendment.
is there a second?
Second.
Is there anyone that wants to do a roll call vote on this? Delegate Feldmark.
Just a quick clarification. I don't think this is the bill with the amendment. I think this is the amendment as amended.
I said that, I think, and if I didn't, my mind
Okay.
said it.
Correct. I changed my motion to the amended, the amendment as
Yeah.
amended.
Okay, got it.
If it was a friendly amendment, actually.
Okay, so
So-
look, we're voting on the amendment. All those in favor, raise your hand. Do we have any objections to the amendment as amended? Okay, by consensus. And now we're going to vote on the bill, and we will take a roll call vote. Ms. Rubeling.
Senator Lamb,
Yes.
Delegate Watson,
Yes.
Senator Guzoni is absent, I believe. Senator Hester,
Yes.
Delegate Atterbury,
Yes.
Delegate Ebersol,
Yes.
Delegate Feldmark,
Yes.
Delegate Hill,
Yes.
Delegate Kittleman,
Yes.
Delegate Novotny,
Yes.
Delegate Pendergrass, I believe she's absent. Delegate Tarasa,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thank you. And now we move on to Howard County 15. Are there any amendments that anyone has for Howard County 15? Okay. Mr. Youngman, would you like to just briefly explain 15 to us again?
Sure. This is the one that removes the requirement for the petition of support by the three owners of real property in the district. The reason why we want to remove it is the board has really sort of disregards this now because a lot of applicants don't even know anybody in the specific district. It's
Thank you. And
sort of a-
it makes it the state instead of the county, right?
No. This is the three signatures you need to have on your
That's right.
application.
It
The
goes-
hearing boards all use background checks now and public
Right.
testimony to determine.
I'm thinking of the next one. Senator Lamb, you have your hand up? I see a hand. Does anybody else see a white hand on Senator?
No, that's Delegate Tarasa, their hand.
No, I'm telling you, I see a hand, but Delegate Terraza, go ahead.
I understand the point of this, but I just think it's not a burden. It's not a big burden. They just get 3 signatures, and I'm not sure that it offers nothing to the process. It doesn't really cost anything to the applicant, and I just think it looks bad for us to be taking away any opportunity for there to be some objection in the community. I'm gonna vote against this. I'm just not sure why we're doing this. I do appreciate the what Mr. Youngman was saying, and that it's not really adding a lot of value, but I can't vote for it.
Delegate Feldmark?
I guess my question is along the same lines, and I'm just wondering if do we have specific examples of folks who are trying to start a business and are somehow blocked by this? Is that, if Mr. Youngman could answer that?
I don't think we have the specific examples because their attorneys usually just go out and find 3 people to sign the application for them. So by the time it gets to staff, it has the 3 signatures, because it's required now. It's just through anecdotal discussions with the attorneys that represent folks and staff is that there's typically not relationship between a lot of the applicants and the people that they're putting on the thing. I agree with Delegate Taraz. I don't think it creates a substantial burden, but it doesn't take away the ability for people to object. This is the three people sort of offering their support. So it's taking away this pseudo offer of support by people who sort of just got asked to sign the application. The opportunity for real support, real testimony for and against the application is all done in the hearing.
Delegate Novotny.
I'm going to be voting for this. I think Mr. Youngman explained pretty well. Thank you for letting me explain this a little bit. I think it's just reducing the complexity and the bureaucracy of the process. So why, if they're not using it in the board to make a determination, why do we continue to have these members go out and get 3 signatures that mean little to nothing? Thank you.
Delegate Hill.
Yeah, I find this similar to architectural changes notice. I think of it as a way for folks to become aware of what's going on, and which can actually lead to discussion with people other than the signatories. So it's hard without having a real understanding of how this complicates or becomes bureaucratically burdensome, to change just for change's sake. And I didn't know if Councilman Youngman could explain again in what way does this become burdensome? It says, particularly with what we have here, that it can be waived if the purchaser has, this particular waiver. I'm not. Yeah, why is that the for 2 years immediately preceding the filing of the application? Why the 2 years? It sounds very particular, and I'm still not clear.
I think a lot of our liquor law dates back to the old days where people walked to the corner liquor store. I don't know why it exists. I guess at one point in time, before we could do background checks and things, that whether you were fit and proper to own a liquor store in a community was based on sort of your connection to that community, and you probably lived in that community and you knew people in that community and they were all supportive of you. But it's pretty clear now that we have liquor stores or I shouldn't say liquor stores, licensees that live in our general community, but we view community as a bigger geographic area now than we used to in the 40s or 50s or whenever some of this stuff was written.
And are there
that's all I can really add.
Because of the variable population density, aren't there still some areas where this really would be a neighborhood issue? That all of our licenses aren't in, shopping centers and commercial areas, that some of them are really actually right in neighborhoods?
It could be maybe in village centers, but I've got a liquor store a mile and a half from me that I don't know who owns it.
Okay.
I don't know that they're from the community.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay.
I just want to remind people that I also didn't tell you this, that we may lose a quorum at 9:15. So if you have something more to add to the discussion, please do so. And I will call on first Delegate Novotny, who hasn't had a chance yet. Well, actually you did, but I'll give you a second chance.
Thank you, ma'am. I'd like to move the bill.
Do we have a second? Looks like Senator Hester is a second, and then discussion, Jessica?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do think this is one that I would really want to hear from the board, since the rationale for changing the requirement is that the board doesn't have value for it anymore. So, I'm going to be voting no this go round. If the board wants to take up this issue and as the body make a request of the delegation, I'd be willing to continue the conversation. But at this point,
Thank you for that. Thank you. The motion has been made and seconded. Let's go ahead and take the vote and see where we are. Ms. Rubeling.
Senator Lamb,
No, I have some similar concerns that were expressed.
Delegate Watson,
Yes.
Senator Guzzoni is absent. Senator Hester,
Yes.
Delegate Atterbury,
No.
Delegate Eversole,
No.
Delegate Feldmark,
No.
Delegate Hill,
No.
Delegate Kittleman,
Yes.
Delegate Novotny,
Yes.
Delegate Pendergrass is absent, Delegate Tarasa.
No.
The motion fails.
Okay, great. We are now moving on to Howard County 16. Are there any amendments for this bill? And Mr. Youngman, you can go ahead and explain this briefly. This is the one with the county versus the state requirement, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so just give us a little more than that.
The residency requirement, instead of being that they're required to be a county resident, they're required to be a state resident.
Okay,
Inspector Baxter has chimed in and said that he feels very comfortable being able to reach out and touch someone and
Great.
get in touch with them if they're in the state.
great. Delegate Tarasa.
I'm uncomfortable with this one. I was provided some information from Jack Milani yesterday, a case, but I don't have time to really parse through it. It was an opinion, an AG opinion that may make me think differently, but I have not had a chance to really parse through it. So at this point, I'm going to vote against it.
Okay, did you have a question or a comment other than that?
Nope.
Okay, let's try to make our comments on questions on the bill. We will vote and you can vote however you want to on that. Delegate Jessica. Delegate Jessica Feldmark. I'm reading your name on the screen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I guess, I'm leaning against this. I think the main argument we heard for this was that having a resident agent within the county was sometimes a burden on the larger chains. And I'm not sure we should be amending our regulations to make it easier for the large chains when this may be one thing that actually serves, the smaller local businesses. So I guess given that that's my rationale, I just wanted to see if there's anything, and it looks like there is something that Mr. Youngman might want to provide.
You're correct that's one of the reasons. One of the other reasons is, we've got family businesses that want to get turned over to the kids, and the parents want to move to Florida and the kids live in Carroll County or they live in Baltimore County, or we have a business that gets sold to somebody that lives generally in our community, just not in Howard County. And the former owner, who's now moving to Florida, stays on the liquor license and doesn't really have a connection to the business anymore. It's just, we're trying to reach a balance between has become an overly restrictive geographic area of Howard County, but not having it at all. And that's why we have, and other counties have as well, I believe that we testified last week, moved to a statewide requirement, not a countywide requirement. So it does impact a lot of the small businesses as well.
Do we, and follow up to that, do we know how many counties currently have the state versus I think Mr. Milani might have answered that last week, but Mr. Milani, do you have that number? How many counties do this now?
I do not have the exact number. I know Frederick is up again this year. Steve, I could check with Steve Wise, but I do know that it's been a move over the last couple of years to go to the statewide residency across the state.
Does Baltimore County do it?
They've been probably 7-8 years ago.
Okay. Do we have any other questions on this? If not, do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Do we have a second? Senator Hester has seconded it. And Ms. Rubeling, will you please call the roll?
Senator Lamb,
Yes.
Delegate Watson,
Yes.
Senator Gazoni is absent, Senator Hester,
Yes.
Delegate Atterbury,
I'm going to say no, and I just want to say really quickly, I think it would be helpful for all of these type of bills that come in for those of us that didn't serve on the council in any capacity, if we had more information in front of us. I'm hearing a lot of anecdotal things from Council Youngman, and so if we had specific examples of businesses that would be hurt by this, it would just be helpful to me. Thank you. So I'm a no.
Delegate Ebersol,
Similarly, no.
Delegate Feldmark,
No.
Delegate Hill,
Explaining my vote, I think this is probably the right thing to do for family-owned businesses. But we just didn't have enough time on this bill, so I really would like to get some additional information and weigh this out. And so for right now, I'm going to be a no.
Delegate Kittleman,
Yes.
Delegate Novotny,
Yes.
Delegate Pendergrass is absent. Delegate Tarasa.
No.
The motion fails with 5 noes and 3 yeses and 1 absent in the House.
Okay, so the 2 liquor bills that failed this year, I'm sure we will have an opportunity, or the state delegation will have an opportunity next year. And I think we've given the liquor board chair some direction about what it is we really want to see more of. So I do think it served a useful purpose, Mr. Youngman, to bring them forward. And the 1 bill will go forward on Monday, which is Howard County 14. Now, Delegate Hill, the remaining 2 bills are yours, 11 and 12. And in the event we don't get to one of them, which one would you prefer to hear first?
Well, I think what I'd like to do with 12 is just hold that one.
Okay.
All right. And on 11, there was a lot of discussion last week. I have an amendment in process, and I don't know if Darragh's able to share it. If not, I did send this tentative language over that Abbey may have received a few minutes ago that can be shared. And I think what we did last week is we did take the amendment on the renewal language that was accepted. What was in controversy is the effort to use a 1 mile or even a half mile, quarter mile distance measure in defining where additional licenses could be added. So again, the current licensees would all be able to retain their licenses, provided that the board allows them to retain those licenses. But this would be about additional ones. So I don't know if either Mr. Moriarty or Ms. Rubeling can share that language.
I did send it out just a couple of minutes ago. It should be on the drive.
Okay. And if not, if you can share if you can allow me to share my screen, I can put it up.
Okay, if you'd like to do that. If not, I can also share my screen, I think.
Okay. All right. Okay. So the point here, as I said, from a sort of public health and community standpoint, the issue I'm trying to get to is that there tends to be crowding of or overconcentration of licenses in poor neighborhoods, in areas with less mobility, and there is substantial data that, frankly, more than guns, this is heavily linked to domestic violence and other kinds of activity. And so what this tentative language would try to do is say that in the list of things that the board should be considering, and this is already in statute, where they're supposed to be considering the public need and desire for the license, the number and locations, the potential effect, and the impact in 5 of the license for which the application is made on the health, safety, welfare of the community. And so this is really trying to explain, when we talk about health and safety of the community, what the things that we would want to avoid. And so it doesn't prohibit it, but it does allow the board to say we're trying to avoid overconcentration in neighborhoods, and that could be residential neighborhoods, avoidance of additional licensees being granted in a designated empowerment zone. And I'm really trying to find some language there to identify neighborhoods that are primarily at risk for socioeconomic reasons. And I'm not sure empowerment zone is the right terms. And then we talk about blight zones, which we know that the county has given designation of blight zones at least, a time or two in the past. And so if something's a blight zone, then to me, we really shouldn't be potentially adding to whatever other problems they're burdened with by putting more liquor licenses. And again, half a mile, quarter mile, half mile around that area. So I just am really asking him if I go in this direction, would that be something that the members of this delegation could be more comfortable with, and sort of wordsmithing a little bit like we did on the first liquor license bill, or the liquor bill that we had earlier today. So that's what I'm presenting to the group.
So Delegate Hill, the part that is in red, is that the only part of the?
That's the only part that I would be adding, or we would be adding.
Okay, so where is the rest of it? I'm just want to make sure that we are clear. The original bill that you put in.
Right, so the original bill talks about, I don't have that up right now. The original bill talks about a 1 mile radius from a previous licensee.
Are you striking that language?
That would be stricken. That would be stricken, struck, instruct.
Okay, so what I'm saying is this the only change to the law with your bill? Okay.
Yes.
So the only thing we're worried about or that is changing is in red.
Right. So I would take out the previous language that tried to prevent overconcentration by putting a zone around the existing licensees and away from the amendment that I previously offered that talked about a radius between, so that would all be taken out.
Okay, questions from the delegation? Delegate Terraza.
First of all, thank you for doing this. I think it's a good direction to go in. I'm not sure what an empowerment zone is, but I'm assuming maybe somebody else knows what that is. But I really like this direction. I think anyway.
Delegate Feldmark.
I agree. This is a better direction than the bill is originally drafted. I guess, given our time constraints, if the delegation wants to move forward with something today, my personal recommendation would be just to limit it to particularly with respect to avoidance of overconcentration in neighborhoods, and leave the other two pieces out for now. I mean, I think it's really the overconcentration that is the issue. I don't think we have designated blight zones. I think there are community renewal zones or areas, and blight is sort of part of the designation of that, but I don't think they're designated as blight zones. And I'm just not sure we have the time to research and revise those pieces.
So let me just two things. So just real quick, the empowerment zones are designated areas of high poverty and unemployment that benefit from tax incentives. And I'm not sure I agree with you, Delegate Terraza, that may not be the correct word. Delegate Feldmark, the term that you did say we have that we use, I know that again, Long Reach Village was declared a blight zone by the county council at some point, and maybe, I wasn't on the council. I've never been on the county council, so I may have missed and taken what I read in the press as that it was called a blight zone, and maybe that's not exactly what it was designated, but I thought that was a designation. So, if it were, if it was that general direction is what would be agreeable to this body, then I would certainly not object to taking out overcrowding. But I thought we had used within our county a term blight zone and had created that designation. If we've done it in the past, we might do that again in the future.
Mr. Moriarty.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to confirm Delegate Hill's intent with this, just in the fact that 4210 is a section that applies not just to Howard County, but generally. So I wanted to confirm that your intent was that this change would apply not just in the county.
No, it would apply only, it would be for Howard County. Because this would not be a statewide. Not trying to do a statewide bill.
Okay.
Just trying to give our local Howard counties, if we need to go somewhere else, I would leave that to your discretion, but the idea would be, I made the argument last week that I wanted there to be a tool available. And it was pointed out to me by Delegate Feldmark, and she had mentioned in the discussion last week that they kind of have ways of doing this, but it's not necessarily as explicit about what you're trying to avoid doing. And I, actually had, was able to briefly run it by Councilman Youngman, and, he may want to comment on the direction that this is going in.
I think this is much, much better than the numbers and the radiuses that we were trying to deal with. I heard somebody mention last week, but we do want to give the board a little more teeth or something else to consider, which I think 5A does. I wasn't certain this morning whether or not we had empowerment zones or designated blight zones. Maybe this came from another jurisdiction that has those things. So I actually personally agree with Jessica that I think A is great to move forward with, and maybe not B or C.
And it may be enterprise zones that we're looking for, and B, not empowerment zones. I mean, I'm hearing perhaps a will to move forward with just A. If that is the case, do we have an amendment to the amendment?
I'll move that amendment to the amendment.
Striking B and C. Is there a second? Okay, discussion, or second from Senator Hester. Discussion, Senator Hester?
Sorry, I agree with the amendment, whatever I just motioned, to include, point A as an amendment. I'm not clear what exactly we are amending, because I thought I heard the delegate say that she just wanted to do this, not everything else that was on the bill. I just wanted clarity on what bill we're actually amending.
So if we are going to pass this today, we would need to see the amendment or make an amendment to the bill to strike the language that Delegate Hill has said was struck. So that's a good point, Senator Hester.
Right.
So then I would like to keep this bill, alive. I think we probably would want to see it finally, but to vote on it today, so we keep it alive, and then see the language. And so I would make a motion.
Wait, we have a motion on the table now to strike A and B.
Now,
I think we need to vote on that.
Set that as a friendly amendment, so that the amendment now would be what Delegate Feldmark suggested. So that's the amendment before us.
Just A.
Just A.
Okay, we definitely need Senator Hester to go forward and strike the original language then as well, if you want to do that.
Yeah, I would like to, pending the sponsor's approval, I'd like to strike the original language in the bill, replace it with the amendment that was offered by Delegate Feldmark, and then vote on that as an amendment.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, do we have any, oh yeah, we probably should take a roll on this, a roll call vote.
Chair Watson?
Yes.
Okay, just to add that to make this a Howard County specific provision, it would need to go in Title 23, I think most likely subtitle 15 of the alcoholic beverages article. So I just want the delegation to be aware that if this new provision is added, this would not be the location that it would be in.
Okay, I thought you did this. You did not do this?
No.
Okay.
I sent this to him last night.
Okay, so, but that's okay. What we just need to do is move this language to the correct section in the code, which, as many people have noted, we can do, and then review it before Monday to make sure it's what everybody has agreed to. Senator, Delegate Terraza.
Is there no way that, excuse me, I appreciate this and that A is the only part that was sort of, we knew was correct, but there's no reference to neighborhoods that are either blighted or in any way neighborhoods of poverty, which I thought was what
That was the point.
Delegate Hill was trying to get to. So is there a way to add that into A?
Could we just say neighborhoods of poverty? Would that be an objection? I mean, is that too vague a term?
Because I think that's where the concern is. I think in other neighborhoods, concentration of liquor stores is seen as competition. I think it's in the areas of poverty where there's a concern.
And I have to defer to those of you who've been on the council because I don't know how the council references neighborhoods of concentrated poverty. I mean, countywide it's 5% poverty, right? But there are neighborhoods where it's much higher than that.
I don't know that I could come up with something off the tip of my tongue here, but like, I do think we could come up with something before Monday, if that was the agreement of the delegate.
Can we get a sense of that, Delegate Watson, or if only
So,
as it is?
if we take a vote on the intent, which is avoidance of overconcentration in neighborhoods with or without poverty, we have to decide that. If we take the vote that is the intent of the majority, we can have it drafted. It needs to be done before the end of the week, and it needs to be signed off on by everyone in the majority before the end of the week. So we can certainly do that if that's the will of the delegation. And I see Delegate Atterbury's hand up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So just a couple of quick things. I'm comfortable moving in this direction. I'm uncomfortable though voting on something that we're looking at that I know we need to move it in the wrong section, the right section of the code, but so that bothers me. Also, I would like to see the language cleaned up, like particularly with respect to, sounds a little odd to be in the code. I just feel like that should be worded differently. And then the A should be taken out because it's not a list anymore. So, and on the issue of poverty, I do think there would have to be a definition of like, what is a neighborhood of poverty, to be specific. So those are just my thoughts.
Good thoughts. And Mr. Moriarty. I don't know, your hand's up. Maybe you don't have a question.
Sorry, but that's from a previous issue. Apologies.
Just my comment briefly is, I like the fact that it gives an intent of the state delegation, but it doesn't mandate anything in particular. I do think, the term overconcentration is sort of nebulous, but at least it communicates an intent not to cluster liquor stores in areas of poverty. And that's what the sponsor is trying to do. So we have two options here. We can vote on the intent as we've discussed it and let it be drafted and then sign off on it before the end of the week. Or we could also hold this, have it worked on, and vote on it next week. And I can see if we can get the bill moved in my committee after Monday.
So Madam Chair, since we established up front that we have precedent for voting on the intent, and then we each can vote up or down once the wording has been clarified, I would ask that we move ahead on the intent.
Okay. I think where we are is we need a motion to strike the original language from the bill.
I would move to strike the original language from the bill.
Is there a second? If you're seconding, we can't hear you.
I'm confused why we're doing those as separate moves. I don't want to strike it without having something to add.
The motion is to strike the original language and substitute language that is based on the intent as outlined in this draft amendment.
With the neighborhoods of poverty.
The neighborhoods of poverty.
Second.
I will second that.
Okay, so we'll vote on this intent, and really what it is what this is a vote which you are allowed to pull back if you do not like the final language that is drafted based on precedent set by this state delegation before in view of deadlines that we cannot change. Does anyone have any questions on that process? Nobody has any questions. Okay, so I think that we are in a position where we're okay with moving forward with a vote on the drafting of this intent, which you can pull back by the end of the week if you do not like the final language. Ms. Rubeling.
Senator Lamb,
Yes.
Delegate Watson,
Yes.
Senator Gazzoni, I believe, is still absent. Senator Hester,
Yes.
Delegate Atterbury,
Yes.
Delegate Ebersol,
Yes.
Delegate Feldmark,
Yes.
Delegate Hill,
Yes.
Delegate Kittleman,
No.
Delegate Novotny,
No.
Delegate Pendergrass, I believe, is still absent. Delegate Tarasa,
Yes.
motion passes.
Okay, so we're going to leave it up to Ms. Rubeling and the bill's sponsor to make sure that each of you has a copy of the final language before the end of the week, and you're able to confirm or pull back your vote by the end of the day on Friday. Does anyone have any questions on this?
And Madam Chair, I would just like to say I really appreciate everyone's input and tolerance for this. Thank you.
You are welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, we will have a meeting next week and the following week. So look for notification in email. I may be able to start them a little bit later, which will be helpful to some of you, I think. We'll try for a 9 o'clock start, but there are some important people that want to come talk with us. So keep an eye on your email. And to my co-chair, Senator Lamb, are you still there?
Yep, I'm still here.
Thank you for all you've done today to help manage this meeting.
It was all behind the scenes work.
Yeah. Hey, the important thing is we got through all the bills. So that is good. And everybody have a great week. I'll see you next week on Wednesday.
Madam Chair.
Oh, look, who's here?
Yep. Did I need to do something there at the end? Are we good?
You missed the party.
You could, if you would like to vote on this bill, you may, or you may wait and vote on it later once you've caught up.
Okay. So there wasn't a.
It wasn't, yeah, because
Yep,
we had
got
a quorum. We had a quorum. But we
Okay.
thank you for checking in.
Yep. All right. Thanks.
All right, everybody. See you next week.
Bye.
Thank you all.